Yeah, welcome to Sidetracked.
You're really going to start off that way?
Yep.
Okay, then.
Started it off. Too late to go back.
Too late to go back.
It's not, but, let's keep going anyway.
Okay, well. So now we're episode number 5.
Yep. Probably. I'm not
this,
keeping
this,
track.
This is episode number 5. It's my job to keep track of episodes when it comes to the podcast edition. So,
Ryan, what are we talking about today?
Today we are talking about the problem with Rotten Tomatoes.
Also known as why I hate Rotten Tomatoes.
Also known as why Sam hates Rotten
Tomatoes. I don't hate Rotten Tomatoes, but I do have...
You have strong dislike.
I have strong feelings against Rotten Tomatoes. This probably won't be as long of an episode.
Probably about half an hour.
Yeah. We won't know until we're done, but well, I guess it'll expand a little more past Rotten Tomatoes. It'll be focused on review websites in general, mainly focused on Rotten Tomatoes.
So I mean, I know you're not a huge fan of Rotten Tomatoes, but
no,
I mean,
I am not.
I don't want to say I heavily rely on Rotten Tomatoes a lot, but at the same time, I mean, I kind of do. When there's a film coming out that I'm not so sure that, okay, do I really want to spend the money to go see this in the theater, or do I just want to wait till it comes out on DVD, out in Redbox, and go rent it? And I mean, I kind of do rely on it when it comes to those kind of movies. But like when it comes to movies that I'm determined to go see, like Batman versus Superman.
Yeah.
And I didn't take the
ones that you're going to see whether or not it's good.
Yeah, those are the ones like I don't heavily rely on its opinions. Like I'm gonna make my own opinion. I don't care what you have to say. But then I mean, so like one of the movies that's gonna be coming out this year, that we saw a trailer for in the theater was Alpha. And that was one I turned to you. I think it was Thor Ragnarok when that trailer came out.
Yeah, that sounds right.
And I turned to you and I said, this looks really pretty good. And I also turned to Crystal's like, we might want to consider seeing this. That is one of the movies where it's like more than likely I'm going to turn to Rotten Tomatoes and see how well it does before I ultimately decide, okay, I'm going to go see this in the theater.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're, if you wait like a week, and then check the Rotten Tomatoes, it's not so much the reviews themselves because it's good. It is a very nice, clean website to look at reviews, and the one thing I do like about their, at least the critic reviews, is that the critics that have given a score, they go through and see, is this score above 60%? If it is, then they give it a fresh. If not, they give it a rotten. And, it's good if you want to, go through reviews and look at good or positive reviews, and compare them to negative reviews. And, it's also good to see audience reviews.
Yeah, that's another one that kind of contributes. So, like, if I see one that says, oh, wow, the critics really hated this movie, but then I look at the audience score and see, wow, audiences really liked it. So that also determines whether I'm actually going to bother seeing it in the theater or whether I'm not going to bother waiting till DVD and then renting it. But if it ends up saying it's rotten by critic standards and it's rotten by audience standards, more than likely I'm just going to pass on it.
Mm-hmm. And getting to the meat of my part of the argument, what I do not like about Rotten Tomatoes is their
the consensus?
Consensus.
Was that it?
Yeah.
Consensus.
Yeah.
Yes, the consensus that it gives off.
That well, kind of, I guess. The tomato meter, anyway. Um, that is the biggest aspect of the site that I really don't like because it's telling you how many people liked it,
Mm-hmm.
which doesn't give you a huge idea of the quality because it's kind of a binary system. Either you gave it above a 60% score and
Mm-hmm.
that's considered good, or you gave it below 60%
Well,
and it's bad.
yeah.
And you know, for example, um, you could give you could have all these critics giving a movie a 4-star review
Yeah.
and out of 5. And Rotten Tomatoes would see that as everyone liking the movie. And it doesn't really, tell the quality of the movie. It's just saying, yeah, people liked it,
Mhm.
but and yes, I do realize below the tomato meter they do have the average rating,
Yeah, the it
which
was the like if it's 75% or higher, then it's certified fresh, and that have you
75%,
yeah
man, that's I
yeah
can't.
like yeah
You'd
I
think,
think it's somewhere on their site if you take a look. It's some
yeah,
on
because
the,
right here this one's 73 and it's not certified, and
we're looking on their website right now.
76 is.
Certified, yeah,
You'd think that they'd put it a little higher
yeah,
for a
you'd think,
certified. I mean,
but
I'd think like 80 some percent.
yeah, would be certified fresh. And did you know? Have you noticed that a lot of DVDs now, when you go out to buy them, like some of them will have the certified sticker fresh
Yeah,
now? It's like, wow, it's certified fresh by Rotten Tomatoes.
yeah,
You should buy this.
and that it's.
I kind of
I
wish that there
kind of
would be
prefer IMDb, just to get more of an idea of
hmm.
an average score.
Yeah, I was reading an article about that. What's the problem with Rotten Tomatoes? And they said there's just no average. Like it was so. It's either like you said with the binary system. It's either good or it's not good.
Yeah.
But there's nothing. There's no in between.
Hmm.
And when you go see some of these movies that you're unsure of, and like so for the most of the time, if I say it's fresh, then I most of the likely will go see it, and then I make my own judgment. But I mean, of course, there's always been movies out there that have that where the Rotten Tomato score I completely disagreed with.
Hmm.
Whereas when they say this movie's rotten, don't go watch it, and it's like, what are you talking about? Like one of my favorite movies, which I was very surprised when I went on Rotten Tomatoes one day. Just like, I wonder what this got on Rotten Tomatoes. The Sandlot. It is a cult classic of but it actually has a rotten rating on Rotten Tomatoes. It is
Huh.
less than 60%. And I was like, are you kidding me? I love this movie. How could you say it's rotten? And it's like, ugh.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there's vice versa. I can't really name a movie on the top of my head where the critic said, this movie's really great. And then you go watch it, and it's like, it's not as great as they keep saying that it is. I don't care for it. But
Yeah.
I kind of wish the audience could kind of get a consensus, like what general audiences are saying, not just okay, 89% of people liked it, and and then the of course whatever remaining percentages of people didn't like it.
Yeah. Well, kind of reiterating my point. Um, I've got Paddington 2 up here. I've been hearing a lot about this on Reddit that it has maintained and it still is at 100%. And
That movie's been out for a while now.
January 12th is when that came out. So it's been out as of today. It's been out a little over a month, and it's sitting at 100%. And below that, the average rating is 8.7 out of 10. And the audience score is 89% with a 4.4 out of 5. So, you know, those two sets of numbers, well, 89% is actually pretty close to 4.4 out of 5. But 8.7 is pretty far from 100%.
Yeah, it really is.
And not to say that it's a bad movie, because I've heard a lot of people say, "No, this is a really good movie. It deserves the praise that it that it's got that it's received." Um, but it does show an inherent problem with the Rotten Tomatoes system.
Mm-hmm. Now, let me pose a question to you, because I've heard it, I've seen it online. Do you think Rotten Tomatoes is having an effect on the box office? So, like, Rotten Tomatoes has a way of influencing how a movie is going to perform. Because I can remember, like, a lot of, so, like, with the Marvel and the DC movies, I hear, like, a lot of DC fans, like, oh, Marvel and Disney are paying, Rotten Tomatoes so that they'll give DC movies bad ratings.
I mean, tinfoil hats aside.
Yeah, tinfoil hats
aside. I think I look at what do we have? The Greatest Showman. That I haven't really paid attention to what.
I loved that movie, and I don't think it deserves its 55% rating.
I haven't seen that movie. Oh, we'll call it a 6 out of 10, because that's the average rating from the critics. But that I'm sure that rating was higher right before it came out, and it's dropped. Which, a movie like that, it was very highly advertised, and I think that in this case, Rotten Tomatoes probably didn't have too much of an effect on it.
Yeah. I mean, Crystal and I went to go see it, and we loved it. We loved The Greatest Showman. Heck, we bought some of the songs, like, pretty much right after, because it was a really great movie. Heck, I think they won an Oscar for Best Written Song, like This Is Me. That one won an Oscar. And so it's the Oscar-winning movie. So, I mean, to say that Rotten Tomatoes, like, is gonna, if you get a bad rating on Rotten Tomatoes, it's gonna doom your movie. That's not necessarily true.
Mm-hmm.
But I will admit,
there might be other movies that have started out with a low rating that might not have done as well.
Yeah, but I mean, I'll admit that I think
it still made $6 million. I assume that's probably just
for that week.
Oh,
with their top box office earners.
Well, I and on top of that, I assume it's also just domestic.
Just domestic. Domestically, that's what it's made for this week.
Yeah.
So, because I think tomorrow it's going to show what made for the weekend for the next. So, and I'm going to tell you right now, at the top of the box office, it's going to be Black Panther.
Yeah.
Because that one made a lot of money this weekend.
The other, and it's a good thing you brought up Black Panther. The other thing that I worry a bit about Rotten Tomatoes is when they remove reviews and ratings from a video. And I know Black Panther is naturally they're going to have some racist reviews, and I feel like they should probably take those off and not use that to consider a final score, but they are walking a very thin line.
We are definitely they are walking a thin line when it comes to that.
It just removing reviews at all is they need to be very careful about that.
Mm-hmm.
I've already seen that as a big complaint by people about the site. So it is starting to have an effect on them.
Yeah. I mean, but it's like remember when I told you about the whole thing about Black Panther? Like there was some kind of group saying they're going to go into Rotten Tomatoes and they're going to give as many negative reviews as they can.
Yeah.
To bring it down because they don't want Marvel succeeding like as much as they want the DC to succeed.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I don't want that. I don't want you to try to bring down a score just because you're upset because your favorite comic book movie company. I'm pretty sure that's not really accurate or no, but because you don't want them to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
Just because they seem to have a consensus of hating movies. Like Rotten Tomatoes, to be fair, has not been very kind to a lot of the DC movies, besides Wonder Woman. But
well, and that's
the critics.
The accuracy of your statement is a little off because Rotten Tomatoes isn't really giving it
I know,
score.
but that's what they say. I remember. That's what they were saying. It's like you got to realize this Rotten Tomatoes is compiling all the reviews that are out other places. It's not Rotten Tomatoes actually giving it. Mm-hmm. It's the critics and all that. Which sometimes even I will make that mistake, as you clearly just heard me say that Rotten Tomatoes gave it this and all that.
Which that's definitely having a cultural impact.
You can see it in the advertising too.
Yeah.
Like you'll see like the rating. Like heck, when Black Panther when it first started getting reviews in, I was on Facebook and there was the ad for Black Panther and it showed the Rotten Tomatoes score meter, and it's like you guys are really heavily relying on the Rotten Tomatoes thing.
Yeah, which you definitely Black Panther was probably safe, but like The Greatest Showman, I'm sure that they were planning on using the Rotten Tomatoes score in their advertising, and 55% they're certified rotten.
Yeah.
Although,
and then don't even get me started on the.
It gave the average rating for the critics is a 6 out of 10.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Do they consider 60 a rotten or
60?
Fresh?
No, once it's 60, it's fresh.
Okay,
it's not certified fresh, but it's fresh.
So arguably, The Greatest Showman has a higher score than it's been given.
Yeah. But like heck, don't even get me started about Star Wars: The Last Jedi. Remember that? Like that whole fiasco where it's like, oh, some of these the reviews are not accurate, but and all that. And that was one where where the critics found it fresh, but the audiences didn't, and they said like
that's a downside to a site like IMDb, where you aren't getting any critic reviews. Mm-hmm. You're just getting audience reviews, and people can. This probably doesn't happen a whole lot, but people could, make a lot of different accounts and give something like Star Wars a bad review. Mm-hmm. And I've looked through the audience reviews on Rotten Tomatoes, and most of them are, 5 stars or 1 star with no actual review.
Yeah.
And I will give Rotten Tomatoes credit because on most of their uh, movies they have um, super reviewers as the first audience reviews that you see, and those are usually um, pretty high quality reviews.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a fine line,
Yeah.
but
I miss the days of uh, like Roger Ebert and the other guy who was with him. I remember
oh, those two guys who always like.
they were on like Sunday nights, I believe,
Mhm.
on CBS, and they'd spend like half an hour reviewing new movies, and um, granted, I'm not 100% on their system because it was see it, rent it, or skip it.
Yeah. Heck, now they Rotten Tomatoes actually now has something like that where they say see it or skip it. They have it's on Facebook. They have these two people, the critic known as the critic and the fan,
Yeah.
and they do that kind of thing too. So they address it and say at the end they'll say see it or skip it. And
But I mean, I did enjoy um, Roger Ebert and whoever it was with him, um, because they did actually give some well thought out um, critiques of
mm,
the movie instead of just, well, I didn't like the Leia scene, so I'm gonna give it a 1 star review.
yeah,
Uh,
I can't wait to talk about that when we review that movie. Which that's gonna be fun. We've got a lot. We're trying to figure out more for our formula for reviewing, but we'll find out. We'll find our way. But
we would find the way.
we will find a way. Sam, do you know the way?
I do know the way.
Oh, good. But yeah, I mean, I guess I'm gonna have to consider like I just have a bit of a love hate relationship with Rotten Tomatoes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I do rely on it. I'm not going to deny that. I rely on it to help me decide whether I'm going to go spend my money watching a movie in the theater. Because, it's hard earned money and you want to go and you want to be entertained. And honestly, I don't, sometimes I question myself, why do you want to rely on Rotten Tomatoes when you know you're going to make your own opinion?
Mm-hmm.
And let's be honest, you're easily entertained. You're probably gonna find at least something to like about it. Like, not every movie is gonna be a really bad experience, like The Last Airbender.
Yeah.
Ugh. Waste of my money.
Well, and another complaint I see is, and I would believe that this probably happens, that people are getting paid to give reviews,
Mm-hmm.
and
I really hope that's not. I don't like that. That's
it's a thing on Amazon, so it's probably a thing everywhere else.
yeah. It
And it's a problem that I I don't have a solution to. Amazon obviously doesn't have a solution to. So it's a complicated problem.
yeah.
Movie movie reviews are
Yeah.
the concept of a collection of movie reviews is a problem.
Yeah. But like, people still rely on those movie reviews. Heck, you still see the movie reviews in the newspapers because newspapers are still around. I remember reading some like back when I was working at Walmart that we would have the newspaper, and I knew there was a movie coming out, and the reviews they had the printed review in there, and I would take a look at those.
Mm-hmm.
It's just people rely on some people. I shouldn't say all people, but rely on critics to, give them an idea if they want to go out and see the movie. Now, I know there's lots of people out there too who could care less what a review says, and they'll go see it and they'll make their own line, and more power to them to do that. But there's always going to be those people who will not take the advice of critics and will go see the movie, and then there's ones who will rely on their decision.
Yeah, and I mean, if just as a general suggestion, if you are a person who really does want to rely on a review, remember there are multiple reviews out there. You can go through and find plenty of spoiler-free reviews, and you know read read through the longer ones,
Mm-hmm.
and compare what people are saying if you feel the need to,
Yeah.
because that can give you a better idea.
It'll give you a better argument with yourself because
Mm-hmm.
here, like my mom would suggest, like, okay, when it comes to other situations other than watching movies, list the pros and the cons. If you go with this decision, here are the pros. Here are the cons if you go with this situation. So when it comes to movies, if you're looking at the reviews, make a list of all the pros that you like that you're liking in, when you see in the reviews. Like, okay, so they talk that this movie has really good action. I love action. That is a point that, okay, here's the pro of me going to it. I'm going to see some really good action scenes. Or you read the review and it says the dialogue is crap, and for you, dialogue is very important for you to when you're going to go see a movie. So that's a con. I'm not going to enjoy the dialogue when I go see it. So I mean, you just got to if you need to, read all the reviews you can find, list the pros and cons of the movie, and which pros and cons really relate to what you look for when you go watch a movie.
Yeah.
So I mean, like for me, that action is one of those things. If a movie has really good action in it, if the story's really good, the characters are really well developed, I'm gonna go see it. If
Yeah.
I mean, heck, if I can enjoy the prequels with all the mistakes they can go with. I mean, honestly, the best.
Just remember that I can enjoy the prequels and be critical of them at the same
Oh, I
time.
can be too, but it's just the most important thing, I guess, out of all of this is if you're gonna go see a movie, go to be entertained. Is your first priority. Just, if you're gonna go see a movie, go in there with the mindset that I hope this movie's gonna be entertaining. I just want a good movie to watch to entertain me. Just go
And
with that.
and as we always say, this is our reviews are our opinions.
Our
Our
opinions.
our opinions, just like everyone else out on the internet,
Every other critic. Yep.
and not on the internet,
Yep.
because I still see reviews in newspapers,
Yep. I see them too. But
and
yeah.
on local news. But
Mm,
that's neither here nor there. So
I think we've hit most of the nails in
I do
there.
too.
So,
And our hammer has gone dull.
yep.
So we are signing off. I am Sam,
I am Ryan.
and we will see you next time.